Welcome to Podadelphia. My name is Dave Diorio. You can find me on Twitter at @fat_lobster. And I'm joined by a guy who's never had his cell phone thrown onto a playing surface. What's up, Gene?
Hey, I make sure that I keep my cell phone in my pocket whenever I'm in away stadiums. I don't go around filming fans that are in distress. That's just rude. Um, but yeah, my name's Gene Zelak. You can find me on Twitter at producer Gene. It's Philly season, so I'm a little more active. But usually when they're winning, so I haven't said shit on Twitter for like a week and a half now.
Oh, you're
so.
like if they're losing, I don't even want to go on Twitter kind
Right, I don't want to read more about.
of vibe.
No, I like to like rub salt in the wound. I'm not. Yeah, no,
Okay.
I don't go on and be negative. I just
Okay.
pile on positivity.
I like it. So what did you think about it? So, what we're referring to here is, I guess it was game 3 of the Phillies Mets series.
Mhm.
There was a Mets fan at Citizens Bank Park who was, I guess, the context would seem like he was jawing with a bunch of Phillies fans the entire game. And then after the Mets won, he took his cell phone and started like filming, like, look at you lost.
You're
And
so
a
sad.
Phillies fan just took it out of his hand, threw it on the field, and then
Yeah. I think that the thing that I liked about it obviously was he sort of just grabbed it and chucked it. Like there was no moment of hesitation. It was just like a grab and throw. And at first
this
I
is
thought it
not
was like,
happening. We're not doing this. This is not
right.
happening.
At first I thought it was like a child. Like I thought it was when I first saw the video, I thought it was like, like a 10 or 12-year-old, but I think it is an older fan who's just short. And
Definitely an adult.
more power to the short adults of America. I'm a short adult in
Yeah.
America, so I totally feel that. But from what I read, even the guy who was the Mets fan sort of said like, yeah, no, I was sort of acting like an asshole, but like what that fan did trumped how big of an asshole I was. I don't know. I mean, sometimes when you do dumb crap, you're going to have consequences, and in this case, the consequences is you're going to have to buy a new phone.
Well, I think it's a case of he who assholes last, assholes loudest.
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad because the guy who threw it probably has got sort of like a lifetime ban or whatever that means at Citizens Bank Park.
Yeah, that anyway.
I have no idea. That's why I did the.
I got a lot of free beers though.
Yeah, I'm sure that like that guy is gonna. Yeah, he's not gonna be hurting for.
So I kind of want to put like a Mount Rushmore together of like crazy iconic Philly fans.
Oh, I love this idea.
Yeah. I mean, it just struck me, so like I didn't have time to put together like a visual.
I mean, I have some thoughts. I mean, mostly they are mostly modern Phillies fans, but
yeah. Well, okay.
I mean, because I don't know that I mean, do you think we should put the guy who hits Santa with snowballs on the Mount?
No. It's got to be like in the last like 10 years or so. Like I was thinking not necessarily, but just like sort of notorious.
Right, the iconic Phillies fan Philly fan moments. Tim's already thrown in one of mine.
Yeah, here Tim, the horse poop eater.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if that doesn't say let's celebrate a championship, honestly, I don't know what else does. when I thought in my childhood, what would I do if the Eagles ever won the Super Bowl? It was really just like, what kind of poop would I eat?
I mean, I don't want to dwell too long, but like, I think there was like a time in all of our lives where it's like, okay, fine, I would eat horse shit to see the Eagles win the Super Bowl. And
that guy actually
did it. So now you got to do it.
You better own up.
All right. So I was thinking, what about the? Was he a proctologist or was he a urologist at the Sixers who gave like the double middle finger to
I think it was. Yeah, I think he was some sort of doctor. He was definitely board certified by someone.
Yeah, he was either a pee or a poop doctor.
Right. Yeah, some sort of
one of the two. So he's got to be up there.
Right.
I was thinking the unlike Aguilar.
Right. I think that's a great one. I mean, that guy is a walking, living, breathing meme. One of my favorite is the guy who took the. This was like 2009, the guy who took the stun gun in the outfield at the Phillies stadium, the guy that like broke across the outfield and took a straight like stun gun, or what do they call the gun that shoots out the probe.
taser.
Yeah, he got tased. Thank you, Jesus Christ.
What about this guy? What about this guy?
What is that guy?
The guy who was like in the stands, like trying to help Ben Simmons, like
shoot the free
throw, like himself. It's like, come on, like, this is the form. This is how you do it.
Yeah, no, that guy was
actually am left-handed, so I can do it like this.
Right. Yeah, we don't know if Ben Simmons is left-handed or not. There's a rumor.
The other guy I thought of was the alligator guy.
Alligator?
Yeah, he caught the alligator in the trash can.
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
He was like, I didn't want to miss like Simmons or something like that.
Right. I remember that. There's also the guy. I think this was one of ours. Who threw up all over the kid in Citizens Bank Park. Help me out, Tim. I'm sure you remember this. Like the guy got very, very drunk. This is like 2007, and apparently threw up on a kid.
I don't remember that one. I'll have to look that one up. There's also like the what about the guy who after the Eagles beat the Vikings and he got all up in that like woman's face and was like, it's over.
I also like the guy that weren't there like there was like a line of people who were giving crap to Vikings fans as they came into the stadium that night because they had been out at the Rocky statue. And then the Vikings fans were complaining, of course, like, why were they being so mean to us? I'm like, why were you being so mean to Rocky? This is what you get when you pick on our statue.
Is this real? He intentionally threw up on the kid?
Oh, right. Yeah, that's why I knew Tim would know the answer.
Oh, he did? He intentionally threw up on a kid? Like, my vomit is my weapon of choice?
Right, yeah, that was his move. Yeah. What about the guy who has all of the Philly icons tattooed on his giant belly?
Including with the fanatic nose as his like, belly button.
Belly button, yeah. And that guy was. I mean, I've actually seen that guy. People will go up to that guy, and I think I was at either a Flyers game, maybe, and people will go up, or maybe it was a Phillies game. People will go up to that guy and like get his autograph and take pictures with him. He's like sort of become a celebrity based on his ink of choice, I guess. I don't know that I would ever go that far for fame. I don't think that I care. I mean, I've got the gut for it, but I don't really know that I'm quite ready to commit to having Gritty as my navel.
Well, this was a fun journey down memory lane. Some things I'd like to remember, some things I would clearly like to forget.
Some things you did forget.
Some things I did forget, and now I wish I could forget them again. We start with the Sixers tonight. Who have what feels like a commanding 2-0 lead over the Toronto Raptors. But you know what they say, no playoff series really begins until a road team wins a game. So thoughts on the series so far, Gene? What do you think?
There have been some surprises. I wouldn't if you had told me that Tobias Harris would look as good as he has in the first 2 games, I don't know that I would have believed you. But he's looked very steady, and he's certainly seemed to have found his place in the offense, at least. Tyreese Maxey is basically having a coming out party. The guy looks like an absolute all-star in this series. He looks a lot more like the second option rather than the third option that he was sort of advertised for this team. I mean, the kid really is like a star in the making. It's incredible to think that he was the 21st pick in his draft. He's sort of the other major piece, I think, that's going to be considered out of the process, like at least successful piece that's come out of the process whole experiment. Harden, I think there are some other people that are maybe being a little hard on how James Harden has performed, but if you sort of look a little deeper into what he's done, guys are shooting like close to 70% off of his passes, off of his assists. He's, I think, tied for second in the NBA in the playoffs right now in assists. So he's sort of finding ways to get people involved. And Joel Embiid, I think, is still yet to have that game in the series where he absolutely takes over and puts up like a 40-point, 15, 3-block night, which I still think absolutely is going to happen. I think that they're going to drop one of these games in Toronto. I think that Thibault being gone is going to have an effect, and not having him in these two games is going to have an effect. But yeah, I don't see the Raptors mounting a lot more resistance, and the Raptors are beat up. I mean, they were sort of beat up coming into the series, and they're continuing to get beat up in this series. Nick Nurse, I mean, I know he's sort of trying to just do what he needs to do to sort of rally his team or whatever, but he is being particularly whiny about the calls. Joel Embiid, I'm loving the fact that coming off the court last night, at least from what he said, he basically told Nick Nurse, like, I'm going to keep hitting these foul shots. You go ahead and keep complaining about the calls. But if you keep fouling me, I'm going to keep draining free throws. Like, this is not going to be a winning strategy for you. I'm not Shaquille O'Neal is essentially what he's saying.
Yeah, well, okay. So we ran through a lot of stuff there. Let's just kind of break it down now, one thing at a time. So the Joel Embiid situation, and lately it's like this foul merchant moniker that's been bestowed upon him because he gets so many of his points from the charity stripe that it's like, yeah, well, all his points come from the line. I don't know. Do you think that there's anything to that? Like, do you think Embiid is fouled as often as they're being called on him? Do you think there's any smoke to this argument at all that, he's just like a foul baiter, basically like a 7-foot tall inside version of what, like, I don't know, James Harden, who used to be like on the outside with drawing fouls on 3-point shots, things like that.
I don't know. I mean, you're going to draw contact when you're inside. Like, that's just the way it's going to be. And the only way really to try and stop Joel when he's that close to the basket is to foul him, or else you're essentially just conceding the points. I think it's great in terms of the Sixers because not only by sort of absorbing these fouls, Joel Embiid's a really good foul free throw shooter, and you're also putting those guys in foul trouble. So there's not really any reason not to continue sort of that mindset as the Sixers. It's got very little downside for the Sixers other than the fact that it's sort of a physical toll on Joel Embiid's body.
No, I know. Like, as a Phillies fan, or I'm sorry, as a Philly fan, you want the point. You want the points. You don't care where they come from, for sure. But I guess my question is, are we making a difficult to watch product? Like, are the Sixers becoming a team that, nationally speaking, it aren't fun to watch because all you're doing is watching Embiid get fouled a bunch of times and shoot a bunch of free throws? Is it damaging to the game?
That's not the game that I'm watching. I'm not seeing a team that's going up the court, Joel getting fouled and going to the stripe. That's not the game that I'm witnessing. There are enough other pieces around that you're seeing a lot of other offensive options. I mean, Tyreese Maxey is draining threes at an incredible rate. Even Danny Green dunking last night. There is a lot of other things going on with the offense, so I don't really buy that the Sixers are a boring team to watch. It's just not true. But I think one of the other things that maybe we're not used to is we're not used to having a star player that sort of gets those sorts of calls. I think that a lot of other places have over the years. Michael Jordan used to get those sorts of calls. Kobe Bryant used to get those sorts of calls. Shaquille O'Neal used to get those sorts of calls. Tim Duncan used to get those sorts of calls. We're not used to having a guy who gets sort of the benefit of that sort of thing from the referee. And I've always been of the belief that when you're the opposing coach or the opposing team and the only thing you can do is complain about the refs or complain about the calls, then you're already beat. your head is not in how am I going to be the aggressor in the game? How am I going to take it to the other team? How am I going to win? You're looking for somebody from the outside who you have no control over to help you. You're looking for the referees to help you win the game. And if that's what your talking point is, you're already beat.
And you know what I was thinking last night? Who in their right mind wants to be an NBA ref?
Nobody. God,
these guys are just harassed from the jump to the final whistle. Just harassed, attempted to be influenced. The fans just beat down on them. Like you got coaches jawing in your ear all game long. It must be. It's maddening. And I mean, it's hard as hell to ref a basketball game anyway.
Even worse than NFL refs, because they say that there's you could call a penalty on every down. In basketball, you could call a foul on every possession, probably. If you were really calling it exactly to the letter of the law. But in order to see all of that, you would need robots. You just can't physically see every interaction that's happening between those 10 guys at that speed. So, sure, yes. I would not want to be an NBA ref. You need to have refs, but
yeah.
God, it's got to be like top 5 worst professions.
And every mistake gets put on like a clip on Twitter and retweeted and commented on 100 times. It's just like I just can't even imagine.
I mean, at least with the advent of replay in the NBA, I feel like more so than not, things that would have broken the game get corrected. I can't remember the last time I was like, well, that would have completely gone the other way.
Yeah, but to your point, like I mean, Embiid gets a lot of calls, but I honestly think that he's only really getting called a portion of what he's actually like. If he were another player of like not superhuman stature and ability, they would get more of these. I mean, obviously they wouldn't have the same frequency, but they would be the beneficiary of a lot more of these types of calls that Embiid's getting. He's just that dominant. He is just that transcendental. He's just that much of a generational talent. He is a future Hall of Famer. We are watching greatness, and it's just people that are like, oh, he gets fouled all the time. You're just not watching what's actually happening on the court. You're just not seeing the skill and the evolution of his skill and endurance and basketball IQ year over year just come to fruition. It really is incredible to watch. He absolutely is the MVP this year. I really just don't care what anybody says. I've watched a ton of Nuggets games, and Jokic is great, but I mean, Embiid will go down in history. Jokic will not.
Yeah, and I think that what we should sort of hug as Philadelphia fans, for lack of a better term, is finally we have a guy who other cities have nothing better to do than they can't stop him, so they might as well just complain about him. I mean we've done it. We've complained about Jordan. We complained about LeBron. We complained about Kobe. We complained about probably Bird and Magic too. But now we have the guy. We have the guy that. Sometimes your only option is to throw bodies at him because otherwise he's going to take
difference. The difference between you expect that guy to shoot 50% from free throws, and Joel Embiid is an 80+% free throw shooter, and
and is also 7.
You got to deal with it. You have no recourse. You have no recourse. You cannot stop him. And you cannot foul him. You have no options.
Right.
There are no options.
Right, because he's taking shots that are, in the 90th percentile, so you're fouling him to take him out to the 80th percentile. Like
the only thing that can stop the Embiid is the Embiid.
Right. Yeah, Joel is his only worst enemy. There's not like a hack a Shaq method.
And injury and fatigue are the only things that can slow him down. And obviously that was the Raptors' game plan in game 2, and it's going to be their game plan in game 3, and it's going to be every team's game plan moving through all the way until Embiid is hoisting the NBA Finals MVP trophy. Because there's just not a human being on planet Earth that can stop him in the game of basketball.
And I think that we finally are seeing here in the playoffs, when you sort of get into the more half-court setups, the reason why a guy like Harden and why a guy like Maxey are going to be good pieces to play around Embiid, because what they do complements what Joel does best. So, now you've got guys that can sort of help him. You've got a guy like Maxey who now he went from shooting, I guess, in the 28 or 30 percentile range to shooting close to 50% from 3. So you have to send somebody out there to guard him. But most of the time, he's still finding ways to be completely wide open on his 3-point attempts, because Joel Embiid just demands such gravity from the opposition. He's drawing 2 guys in on every possession. So somebody's going to be open, and that's where the Sixers in Game 1 and Games 2, that's where they've had success, is when they are making sure that they're taking the most efficient shots on every possession. And when they weren't late yesterday, as the third quarter and fourth quarter the third quarter became the fourth quarter, you saw that there was a chance that Toronto sort of could get back into it. Luckily, the Sixers slammed the door on their face. The Raptors were not a great matchup for the Sixers. I'm surprised that this has sort of played out the way that it has.
Well, it's not over. It's not over, and you'd like the Sixers to go up to Canada and win these 2 games. I don't know. And you brought up the Matisse Thybulle thing and how he's not going to be able to play. I just don't feel like he was that much of an impact on in the first 2 games. Probably because we had such commanding leads in the fourth quarter that it wasn't like, okay, bring in the
you need to have somebody go and lock down a guy.
Who do you need him to lock down at this point? There's
Doesn't
just not really. To me, Van Vliet has been the most scary Raptor so far. And it's only because he's hitting low percentage, like really far threes that are like, oh, that kind of hurts. But you're not.
To a certain degree, you're going to let them have that. If that's the shot that they want to take, you're going to sort of let them have that, because it's even worse to be out there playing them too close and fouling them or something. God forbid. Yeah,
James Harden. What do you think about James Harden and kind of the role that he's playing as like this, like from an offensive standpoint, like a Ben Simmons type facilitator, but with the ability to shoot and the willingness to shoot? You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's your main difference. Is he's as good a passer as Ben Simmons was. He's a better passer. He has more.
He's a better passer because he is a better shooter.
Right.
Like those lanes open up more because you actually have to defend him.
Right. So he's going to draw a different type of attention. I think we all sort of thought maybe when James Harden was going to come over, you might see a guy who would still have that burst and be able to sort of slash a little more. But I don't know that we've seen that James Harden, or at least not in any long stretches. So I think that he's probably to a certain degree settled into what he knows to be the best version of himself to help the team win. And that's why you're seeing his assist numbers and everything be so high. This was sort of, I think, the offense that they sort of hoped that you would get from Ben Simmons if he had ever been able to have a shot that was respected. He never was going to develop into that. And, Brooklyn, what is Ben Simmons done for you?
Let me ask you this. So if you look back at James Harden's career, the superstars that he's played with, right?
Yeah.
He's played with Kevin Durant.
Yep, twice.
He's played with Russell Westbrook.
Mm-hmm.
He's played with Chris Paul.
Mm-hmm.
He's played with Kyrie Irving.
Yep.
Okay.
And Joel Embiid.
And Joel Embiid. Aside from Joel Embiid, what do the other guys have in common? Or like to you, what do you think they have in common?
I think they're all great shooters.
Yeah,
You know?
but to me, they're all ball handlers.
True. Yeah.
Like, so now in like this new reality that James Harden is in, he's playing with Embiid, Maxey, Tobias, and someone else,
Danny,
Danny
Green,
Green or
maybe. Yeah.
whoever. But none of them command like the ball.
Right. No, they're
None
not.
of them
None
like
of the
dribble the air out of the
ability.
ball or anything like that, Max is a good ball handler, but he doesn't have that like need. It's not like critical to his game like the way Kyrie and Westbrook and I to some degree Durant is a little bit.
And
Um,
certainly Chris Paul.
yeah, and I'm like totally comfortable with Harden, prodding and poking and moving around and
Mhm.
then finding it and then just connecting. I mean, and that's why these guys are having such great success. That's why he's racking up these assists like mad. I think this is just the right formula for him. He's always been a great assist guy, and now it's just kind of like just hit the accelerator. It really is. I honestly think we're catching lightning in a bottle here.
And I think that a lot of the people who maybe are critiquing James Harden's performance as a Sixer are not sort of appreciating how his play and how his presence on the court has taken the other players around him to another level. One of the things we always sort of rated players on is, do you make the players around you better? And I don't think that there's a person on that team who can't say that they aren't a better player because James Harden is on the floor with them. I mean, he's basically created this thing that we call, that we have now, that's Tyreese Maxey. You can attribute his whole other gear that has come out of him from the very first time that they played together. I think Maxey had a 30-point game that first time they played together, and we all sort of looked around and were like, "Oh my God, we had no idea we sort of
Yeah.
had this on the court." Well, by the fact that James Harden is there, they can't stop everyone. And you have a guy that can take advantage of that. That's why a lot of times people have said, "Oh, you need 3 stars." Well, you need 2 stars and a guy that can absolutely hit the stuff when he's given an open look. And that's what we found in Tyreese Maxey. He's better than that, obviously, but um, I wouldn't have thought at, what is he, 24, that he was going to be. And it's also, we haven't talked about this. It is criminal that he is not even considered a finalist for the most improved player. He was not even remotely close to playing starter minutes last
Right.
year, and now he is essentially the third star on a team that is going to contend for a title. It's crazy that people don't consider
Yeah.
him, at least in the conversation, for most improved.
Yeah, and low key, I'm like loving George Niang.
Oh yeah, no, I think he's sort of that piece that sort of, I think you need, that sort of that levity. He's sort of he's just a fun guy. It seems to be on the bench.
Yeah.
And when a guy like Maxey, gives him that nod by sort of doing his celebration, you can tell that that's the mark of a team that's sort of playing together and has that X factor sort of forming. That last year Sixers did not seem like they were having fun in the playoffs. It seemed like it was absolutely a grind. It was totally work every night out. This team seems like it's having a really good time. And it's so hard the way that the season ended to judge how they sort of came in to the end of the season to see where they were at. It seemed like for the last 4 weeks of the season, they were already in, I'm just going to conserve my energy to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because you really didn't even want to be the 1 or 2 seed. You didn't really want to have to face the idea of Brooklyn in round 1. You think the Celtics really want to be in this fight that they're in round 1? I hope,
I mean, by virtue, you also kind of don't want to be the 3 seed.
right.
I mean, I get that Chicago is a good matchup, and the Sixers probably would have handled Chicago to this point just as easily as they've been handling the Raptors. But then, as the 3 seed, you're looking at that winner of the Celtics Nets, and we don't reseed in the NBA. So The
Right.
Sixers are going to get the winner of the Heat Hawks, which will probably be the Heat. I don't know, what is that game at now, because the Hawks were giving them all they could handle earlier on. So it really was the ideal matchup. Well, the Heat are up 99-93 with 5 minutes left.
So that one's probably going to go down to the wire.
I mean, the Heat are probably going to win that series. So you're looking at it, I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but if you're looking at a second round matchup against the Heat versus a second round matchup against the winner of the Nets Celtics, I'll take the Heat in that. I mean, we've proven that we can at least be very competitive with the Heat. So, I'm happy with that second round matchup. And then,
I mean, you were going to get a better team in the round 2 anyway. You wasn't going to be, you're not going to get an easy matchup.
I mean, yeah. And I mean, look, judging by that Nets Celtics game 1, please give me 7 games just like that. I loved every second of that.
Oh, it was a great game.
2, let me ask you this. Who do you want to win that series? This was like a great conversation topic at our Easter. Who do
I want to win between the Nets? The Nets and Celtics? I actually honestly still think I want the Nets to win.
Really?
I think that the Celtics are a better team. Like, they just have, they're actually a team. I think that you've got Smart and Tatum, who I think are a worse matchup for the Sixers. I hate the Celtics more than I hate Brooklyn. And, I think that there's just something to be said for, like, I just don't think that Kyrie and Durant there's just something wrong with that chemistry. There's just something wrong with that makeup. And I would much rather have a team that maybe there's something a little off with the team psychology, or God, wouldn't it be great to still see the first time that Ben Simmons comes back would be in a playoff series against the Sixers? How can you not still want that? I still want
kind of funny.
I want it in the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't want it in round 1. I don't want it in round 2. I want it in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, it would be kind of funny to see him come back, in this series. I guess there was talk that he may come back towards
they were saying like game 3 or game 4 possibly.
End of this series, and then they wind up playing the Sixers down the road, and there is no recourse. Like, you have to play, and you have to play in Philadelphia, and you have to be on the court. And I was thinking about this when I was watching the end of that game. I'm like, okay, imagine now Ben Simmons, like, there's 5 minutes left in the game. It's a competitive game. It's back and forth the whole way, but Ben Simmons is on the floor, and you have Kevin Durant, arguably the best basketball player, best basketball player, like, on the planet. You have Kyrie, who's been in these great moments before, and you just off-ball foul Ben Simmons and just take the ball totally out of their hands all the way down to the 2-minute mark or the 3-minute mark.
Right.
I just don't see how he's a useful component in the playoffs in these highly competitive games down the stretch where there's, for 2 and 3 minutes, you can just use a depth bench player to foul Ben Simmons off ball and force him to shoot free throws, which he cannot do.
Well, we've seen that happen. It happened to us. We've seen,
I know.
I mean, the Sixers.
Why are Nets fans anxious for him to come back?
I have no idea. I don't know that. I don't know if I have never met an actual Net fan in real life, so I'm still not sure that they exist outside of Twitter. But it's one of those things where, is the Nets PR machine sort of generating this idea that he might come back just to sort of, I don't know. I don't know if it's one of those things that you're even going to put a scare into the Celtics. I can't imagine that there's anybody on the Celtics that's afraid of Ben Simmons. I think it would be a terrible decision by the Nets to bring him in this late. You've had no time to work him into to whatever system you've got going. You should just leave him on the bench. Maybe you start him at the beginning of the next series, but they've never played together. They've never been on the court together. You have no idea what to expect. And I mean, are you going to swap him out, for defense? You can't, late in the game, you can't call that many timeouts to get him off the court in time. He's going to have to play offense, and he's a liability because he won't shoot.
It's ridiculous. So what is it? Tomorrow night, right? Tomorrow night. Mm-hmm. I'm really upset that this Celtics Nets series is off schedule now. It was working out perfectly. It was Sixers play, then Celtics Nets, and the Sixers play. But now,
it was every other night. It was great.
Now they're not playing tonight, and they're going to play tomorrow. Where both games are going to be on kind of at the same time, so we're going to have.
Yeah, it's annoying. Yeah, but we'll get a workout.
Back to the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies are up 2-0 right now.
Hey, thank God.
Yeah, thanks to a Bryce Harper and Matt Vierling RBI.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a little productivity out of the center field position.
Man, that has been... You might as well have let the pitchers bat the way that 9th hole has been.
What's going on? If anyone's watching, why did Camargo pinch hit for Gregorius in this game already? Not sure what's going on there. So the Phillies really struggling right now. Not a fun watch.
No, not a fun watch at all.
Man. I just think with this lineup, you have pure hitters in this lineup. Just trot them out there in the same batting order, in the same position every day, as much as you can. Right. I get Harper, is dealing with an elbow thing, so he's DHing now. But you don't
have to change the lineup all that much if you put him at DH. You're just the guy who's playing DH, was DHing is in the outfield slot.
It frustrates me that JT Realmuto goes 4 for 4, and then he's on the bench the next day.
He sits the next day.
And Alec Boehm goes 3 for 4. I know he had the defensive stuff, but then he sits the next game.
That's why we should be using how we should be using the DH to keep these guys on the field, keep their bats in the lineup.
There was a former minor leaguer at my Easter dinner, and I was having this conversation with him, and I was saying, hey man, I just think that they're rhythm guys and they got to get this in. And he goes, nah, it's not really that big of a deal. I don't believe it though. I don't believe it. I think it's a rhythm sport, and if you have these guys, they know when they're walking into the stadium every day, they know where they're going to be in the lineup, where they're going to hit, where they're going to play. And there's no question about it, and they just do it. It's not okay, I wonder if I'm going to play today. You walk in, and it's I wonder if I'm going to play, or I'm going to be on the bench, or if I'm going to DH, or if I'm going to be in the field, or if I'm going to be a third base, or I'm going to be second base, or I'm going to be a shortstop, or I'm catching today, or what is going on? Just give them.
I totally believe that broke Scott Kingery. I totally believe that all the swapping around and not knowing what position he was going to play.
I thought we had an old school coach. We talked about this years ago with Gabe Kapler. It's they're human beings. It's not pieces on a chessboard. You can't just plug them in, move them around, and just create sort of this air of uncertainty. It just drives me nuts.
Well, and also, I mean, through spring training, I listened to a couple of interviews sort of with, I think it was Bryce Harper, and they've sort of taken the approach, even in their position coaches, the infield coach, the outfield coach, that they're really just focusing on fundamentals. They're really just focusing on going out and playing their position defensively the way that you sort of always played it for 100 years, sort of just knowing the field, knowing that, they're not, and, I think that there's probably still some of the sabermetric sort of thing. I have seen once in a while the guys in the outfield go to their back pocket for a card. But I think across the board that they are really just trying to keep the mindset, especially defensively, is just make the plays that you can make. And you can see when they are making these bad defensive plays is because they are trying to do more than they are supposed to on any given play. They're either trying to make a throw that is totally inadvisable, or they're not calling each other off of the ball. If you're playing fundamental sound baseball that you learn when you're 10, for the most part, these guys would probably be having a lot less trouble on defense. And I'm hoping that that's just continuing to drill that into these guys It was sort of a late start to spring training. You continue to drill that message in, and hopefully when you get into like 6 or 7 series and you start to see some results from just not overplaying balls or not overdoing it, you start to realize, okay, if I just stay within myself, play my position, good things are going to happen. Because we do have the offense that, okay, maybe we give up 1 run here, but let's not make that mistake that compounds to make this a 4 or 5 run inning. Maybe you think, oh, if I make this play, I can turn 2. No, just get the shore out. So that's what I'm hoping. I'm not as far gone on the Phillies. I will say I agree with you. They are not a fun watch right now. And I'm disappointed because I was so excited to watch this team as it was coming together in the spring. The fact that they didn't come out here and start beating teams 8-0, 10-0 has been frustrated. But, you had a series against the Mets. The Mets are a good team. It was going to be a tough series. A lot of people are like, oh, the Marlins, we can't beat the Marlins. Right. This Marlins is not the Marlins of the last couple of years. This is a better constructed team. It is a team with legitimate pitching. So I'm not saying they're going to win the World Series. This is not the whipping boy Marlins of the past. Should they have lost 3 of 4? No. But
the Nationals are the new Marlins.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Braves have started slow too.
Look, it's, what are we at? We're this is game 12.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. We got a long way to go. The thing that's just weird to me is like, it's game 12 and we've had 12. Well, I don't know if today was a duplicate lineup, but as of yesterday's game, it was game 11 unique lineups.
Which it just doesn't make any sense.
I just keep coming back to it. It just drives me crazy.
I think that Girardi, or somebody, I think that they're trying too hard to overthink these defensive things. I think they're trying, to plaster up holes in the defense by keeping guys in the lineup. I think you got to find your 9 guys and put them out there every day. And I think that they're not a deep team. And you can see when they have somebody get hurt, when they have, they're not deep. And I think that there might be something wrong with Wheeler.
Well, I mean, abbreviated spring, yada, yada, yada. So,
but I think he might be, he had shoulder issues. He just doesn't seem to have the same zip. The same, I think his velocity might be down, a tick. I would rather make sure, if it's one of those things where it still needs rest, I would rather we go and give him an extended spring training, and bring him up in a couple of weeks. I just don't want to see it, us make a mistake here and have him gone for the whole summer because they taxed his shoulder.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. The Heat Hawks, it's a 4-point game with 4 minutes left.
I'm telling you, it's going to come right down to the wire.
Yeah. You want to go watch it?
Well, let me just ask one more thing before we go. There was one other thing in baseball that has happened over the last couple of weeks. It's something that I think it goes sort of bigger than Phillies baseball.
Okay.
What did you think about Clayton Kershaw getting pulled in the 7th of a perfect game? And then, I mean, just sort of to the same point, how do you feel about the guy in the Japanese league who has now thrown, I think, 17 consecutive perfect innings, but has not thrown a perfect game?
What's the deal with Kershaw? Was he coming off an injury?
I mean, he's been sort of nagged by a lot of things over the years, and he had a relatively high. I guess a relatively high pitch count for a guy throwing a perfect game. I don't know how high you can be if you haven't walked anybody and they haven't gotten a hit against you. There's only so many pitches you can do to thrown.
Look, dude, how many perfect games have ever been thrown in the history of Major League Baseball? 23, 27, something like that?
It's less than 30.
If you got a chance to throw a perfect game, you let the guy have a chance at a perfect game. I don't care if he's not stretched out or if he's coming off an injury. You have an opportunity at immortality. He's thrown no hit. I think he's thrown a no hitter, right? He's thrown a no hitter. He's got a World Series ring.
This is his
Give
thing.
him his chance at a perfect game, for crying out loud. If he says, "Look, I can't go. You got to get me out of here," well, I realize he's not going to do that, but to me, I would feel like you got to let him go until he gives.
I mean, like, I feel at least he's on pay. He might get a no hitter. I don't know. I mean, to me,
no hitters shit anymore. People throw no hitters all the goddamn time. How many no hitters did we have last year?
I don't think the Phillies threw one.
A perfect game, though. It's
a perfect game.
You got to let somebody try to finish out a perfect game. No hitter, whatever. Especially if he's already thrown one before. Like, I get it. You're trying to but a perfect game. They don't come. Do
you think that? I mean, this is the same guy. He's done this. The manager for the Dodgers. He's done it before. He's pulled guys in perfect game situations before. Do you buy into the fact that it was early in the year?
No, I don't. No. If you're on track for a perfect game, what did he throw? 7?
7. Yep.
He needs 6 more outs for a perfect game.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was close to 80. I would never talk to the manager ever again for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I think he was close to 80.
That was my chance.
I think we sort of figured it. He probably needed another 25 to 30 pitches, which would have taken him got him up around 110, which to me feels like that's about how many pitches it takes to throw a perfect game. You got to let the guy go at least until he gives up a walk, at least until he gives up a hit. Have somebody ready that you can bring in immediately, but you got to let the guy go. Let the guy throw.
This game is 2-1 now. And as far as this guy in Japan, I didn't read the article. What's the story?
Just basically that this guy has got, he
got pulled out twice in a row.
Yeah, and he deep in perfect games. Yeah.
Look, I don't know what the culture, the cultural, like, I don't know if it has the same level. So I don't know.
You don't know. Maybe they've thrown a lot more perfect games in Japan, and we just don't know.
I don't know. Maybe there's a lot more.
How many GMs do you think around the league are hitting the math? How do I get this kid over here?
I don't know, but I've always been a proponent of the MLB should go out and find the best Japanese league manager and bring him over here.
I would love to see that.
Bring a whole new mindset to the game.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that it's a communication barrier thing, or do you just basically what you'd have to do is you'd have to hire Charlie Manuel to interpret for the Japanese manager, right? Charlie Manuel is fluent in Japanese. Yeah, that'd be cool. How big would that be? And how do I get Showtime to put that on every night so that I can watch it? Because that's entertainment to me.
So you would need Charlie Manuel to interpret what the manager's saying. But then I would need someone else to interpret what Charlie Manuel is saying so I could understand it.
Right. Yeah. So you'd have to have Jason Sudeikis as Charlie Manuel as the Japanese manager.
What is happening?
This would get very expensive very quickly. And I mean, it'd be like one of those whisper down the lane things, It would be
What happened with the Heat 115 to 105.
Oh wow, there were a lot of fouls.
Because it was fouls down the
city
down the stretch. Ooh, and the Hawks failed to cover. I think it was an 8-point spread.
Oof. Bad all around.
Yeah.
Well, also the other thing is Gabe Kapler is getting pooped on because he bunted up 8 runs late in the game.
I don't know, but didn't he have some great quote if I feel like we're gonna?
I think it was something to the effect of I'm not here to to deal with unwritten rules. If it was a real rule, they would write it down. I think it was something like that.
If the computer tells me to bunt, I bunt.
Look, okay? I had the coconut oil. It was smudged on the form. It said bunt. What do you want me to do?
Listen, if the computer tells me to take a shit at 6 a.m., I'm on the toilet at 6 a.m.
By God, every morning. But hey, any
Whatever.
reason I can get in to sneak in Gabe Kapler.
Whatever laptop tells me to do, I will do. Thank you, laptop. All right. So what's next? We'll be back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think by the time we're
draft
back,
will happen by then,
the
right?
draft will have happened by then, and I'm
good because I don't know anything about any of these college guys.
Look, all I'm saying is I look for the Eagles to go. I think they're going to go defensive line, defensive tackle possibly, and then I think they're going to go wide out in the second.
Oh, you don't think they're going to draft a linebacker?
Oh, no, I don't think they're going to draft a linebacker. I think it, and I think they make both picks in the first round.
Okay. All right, we'll see. All right, well, we'll be back in 2 weeks talking Eagles draft. Hopefully the Phillies turn things around, and we're talking round 2. Well, geez, will that be? I guess we'll be deep in round 2.
Yeah, we'll be deep in round 2 by then, hopefully.
God willing, they're still playing.
If not, that'll be a whole other thing that we'll be talking about.
Oh my God, I don't know if I'll do another show.
Yeah,
the Sixers don't get out of the second. Yeah, okay, I don't even want to talk about it. All right,
it's not going to happen. It's going to be fine.
All right, we'll be back in a couple weeks. If you haven't done so already, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. Gene, are we going to have the show up on iTunes?
I'm going to make an effort to get it up there. If not tonight, then it'll be up there tomorrow.
Cool. We'll be back. Also, check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search Podadelphia. If you have any more time in your podcast listening day, be sure to check out the Whip Around for all the week's weird news. Also, check out the Painted Lines on YouTube for wall-to-wall Philly sports coverage. And until we meet again, have a great day at work, everybody. We are out of here.